good evening. If you're watching this from the US, good morning. If you're watching this from Australia, God knows what time it is over there that you're actually watching this actually live. So this is the last round of sessions that we have for today. This is the US corner actually. So every session that's going on right now is someone from the US. So by no doubt, this is any going to be any different to the value that you're going to get out of this. This is a conversation that I've been wanting to have for a little while. What's interesting with this conversation is that Anya and I have only just actually connected very, very recently. So it's the first time that we're actually conversing as well. So it just goes to show you about the power of social, the power of community, and the power of connectivity. But for the next sort of 25 minutes or so, we're going to be talking a little bit around migrant businesses, about understanding the challenges that migrants have building businesses. But I also want to touch on some real important factors, not just about the diversity mix, but actually being a female running businesses as well. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Anya Nova. It's really a pleasure to have you here today. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Great. Thank you, Katan. And I'm so happy to be here. My background is a unique one, but I'll just give you a high level overview what my professional career looks like. I started off working in the corporate world at a very young age. I want to say I got hired on to be one of the youngest bankers here in San Diego for a Fortune 500 bank at the age of 19. And there's this whole story behind that, but we can dive deeper into that later if we must. But yeah, I got really lucky. I was still going to school, didn't have a formal degree yet, but somehow the people who I met were really, saw something. So anyway, I started as a personal banker at 19 and then slowly climbed up the ranks with, every 2 years I got promoted. And by the time I was 23, running a multi-million-dollar branch, having up to 25, actually about 25 people on my team, assistant vice president and bank manager. I stayed in that role for about 9.5 years, close to 10 years really. And I specialized in small business banking. So for about, 6 years, kind of collectively within my career within this financial institution, I focused on my small business customers. I knew one day I just knew I wanted to start my own company. And around this time, I was 27 years old, and I knew I just needed to do it. And so
Mm.
I quit. I quit. I didn't really know. I just knew I needed to do it. And I originally had the thought of going into commercial investing type of line of work.
Mhm.
When I started to go and get my certification to be in that field, something didn't feel right. So, um, anyway, it took like a 2, 3 month time to figure things out. And at that time, my husband, actually my former husband, he's still in the IT field. He threw the idea of offering enterprise level IT support to
Mhm.
small businesses. Um, a light bulb went on in my head and thought that it was a great idea. Now, I mentioned I did small business banking. That was my focus within uh, my previous role. During that time as well, I got exposed to a lot of project coordinating with the IT department within the financial institution because we were doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions.
Mm.
So I got a little bit of glimpse at what that looks like. And it was actually, for me, it was easy for me to integrate. And I did work a lot with the project IT manager for, when we did have an acquisition. So anyway, I did say, okay, yeah, I think it's a great idea. And I know how to run a business. I know how to do business development. Let's do it. And then after that, within like about a month, I went out and got our first contract within less than 8 months, I got our biggest contract, and that client stayed on with us for 8 years. And
Wow.
then within a year, I was able to convince my business partner, again, my former husband, to quit his six-figure a year IT manager job at a biotech firm. And so fast forward to now, um, 15 years into the business, I did just exit as of last week, and really excited about where I'm going now. So stop me at any time,
No,
Keith.
no, I think
Okay.
it's just fascinating, you know, your journey. I mean, there's a lot of people who I guess are, whether they're watching this live or going to watch this afterwards on pre-record, have probably
Mhm.
gone through similar journeys. They've started,
Right.
you know, at a very young age within a particular industry. They've kind of tried to progress their career, but then they come and hit these walls.
Mhm.
When you were just describing that part of your journey, you knew within yourself that you needed to make that jump, that transition, and it's easier said than done. Just turning around and saying, right, I'm gonna quit my job and start something. You know, we've got so many entrepreneurs who have donned today's summit, you know, and tomorrow, who have done that very thing. They kind of took that jump and that leap of faith. Um, and you know, I mean, obviously you're giving us a real, you know, top line version of your journey all the way through, but I think there are certain things in here which I'm really kind of keen to sort of pull on, if I may. um, Starting the business is one thing. It's exciting, it's nerve-wracking, and you know, it's supposed to be also one of the best moments in your life. But what sort of challenges did you face? I mean, obviously securing a client who then goes on to be 8 years under your sort of management, etc., is an amazing feat. But what kind of challenges did you really first come up against when you started your business?
I think um, for me, that I don't want to say so much more, not so much when I first started the business,
Mm,
because I did have experience in the banking world and specializing in small business banking, how to do the business development portion of starting a company. And those are some skills. So think about skills, transferable skills into my IT business. I will tell you the biggest challenge for me, not necessarily when well, I guess the first 3 years of the business is about getting from a single or two people company to your next hire.
yeah.
Okay, I think the biggest challenge for a lot of entrepreneurs is being able to scale up and add team members into your team. And what I've learned is it does so a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs leave their job, corporate job, start a company, call themselves entrepreneurs and business owners,
Yeah.
but yet still function like an employee. They're basically just working for themselves,
Mm.
right? So they're doing everything. They want control of the outcome of everything. And so when you add people in the mix, there's still that need to control and having a hard time letting go of control to allow people to do what they are supposed to do.
But sorry if I may, at this
Yeah.
point, really, you bring such a really important point here, because we talked about this in earlier fireside chats around building a team and stuff like this. But do you feel it's an intrinsic trust thing that people have? They're so protective over what they've started that they actually feel that no one else can do it the way they could. Some people reflect that as ego, but I feel that it's a trust thing. Do you feel that, you know, I mean, when you started up and there's two of you, and then you were taking it to this next level, there must have been some form of authority or leadership within yourself that says, look, I must let go of this and entrust this on others. Otherwise, there's no way that I can move forward, right?
Right. And I think you hit on the right keyword there, which is trust.
Mm,
You got to trust people that you bring on. I think it is a mindset issue. I think it's lack of leadership development.
mm,
So there's got to be a point where you do have a startup that you get out of business business operator to business owner and business leader. That's an entire different mindset. Are you a worker in are you really an employee? What does that look like being an employee? Or are you a business leader? So that's the key distinction between the two. So one of the things I do highly recommend for a lot of people who are looking to scale and do it quicker than a lot of business owners, what happens is, 90% of startups fail within the first year or 3 years, right? And I think it really does come down to lack of leadership knowledge on how it is to be a business leader in an organization to scale. Two, it is that trust factor. Now, not a lot of people know how to hire people. So if you're leading into, there's so many different ways I can take this, but I'm just going to kind of stay within the common theme. If you're going out hiring, looking to attract people to come and work for you to help you, but there's mistrust there already, there's always going to be this. You're going to also attract people who are not trustworthy. All I'm saying, like attract likes, right?
100%, 100%. And I think the other thing here, just to bring into to this and maybe amplify a little bit of what you're saying here, is that people sometimes go out and recruit based on necessity rather than the actual true value. So what they do is they say, look, quickly, I need a digital marketer, so I'm just going to go and hire a digital marketer. And what they do is they have this intention that they want them to do this job, but they want it them to do this job in a particular way, in a particular fashion, and exactly the way they would do it. Now, what you said about 90% of businesses fail, within the first sort of year or two, and that's down to sort of poor or mismanagement or poor leadership. Mm-hmm. Remember, a lot of these people have never perhaps led a business before in their life. So they're technically gifted in what they do, but they're not commercially or business orientated in the way that they would lead. They would lead people in their own business in this respect. And I guess what I want to kind of get to is the point of how, with your experience, in your own company, what is it that you did that allowed you to sort of pivot, or I guess transition, where you could almost go into this and think, look, I can trust people. I can, I've built this kind of this self-leadership within myself to know that this is where I belong and this is where I should be, etc., etc. Could you share a little bit of that with us?
Yes. Now, all of us have different talents, behaviors, gifts. I highly recommend for entrepreneurs to do some type of inventory or some type of assessment of their natural talents. So there are assessments out there like Myers-Briggs. I highly recommend that. There's also DISC, which is the 4 major behavioral types of an individual. So yes, I do recommend people start there. Find out more about yourself. So let's just say, to your point, Kitan, an engineer, right? They're good at what they do. They are so good at what they do, building, analyzing, details, but they're not necessarily the best salespeople.
Yes.
Okay, so taking an inventory of all of your core natural behaviors and gifts, and then saying, what are the things that I am not good at? Now, based on that assessment, that finding, then you can start to plan. Then when I reach this certain milestone, I'm going to have to look to attract someone who can handle this job function for me. Or if it's immediate, like I'm an engineer, for example, I'm scared, I know I can do this. I've got a great service or product or software, whatever it is, but I'm going to need someone to really be the salesperson to champion my product, my service, my genius. Same thing. If you are a person that loves people, want to be out there, but hate numbers, don't do accounting.
Yeah.
Right?
So
it really is that basic. If I can just really simplify it for people,
No, I absolutely, I get that. And do you know what? I know people hear this time and time and time again, yet they still make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And it's this whole base of learning to let go. And actually, when they do let go, and they do put their in trust into someone and something and a system. I mean, the Robert Kiyosaki model talks about, you're self-employed, then solopreneur, and then business owner, and then investor, in terms of those kind of four grids in that sense. But it's that behavior that you do. If you go at things where you believe that you have to own everything, it will mean that you become automatically protective over absolutely everything that's going on, and you do end up micromanaging. Right now, the pandemic has taught us one big thing, that the way that large organizations manage and lead their teams has been very disparate, because now they've got to do things remotely. You haven't got this connection of energy that you can have someone in the room and talk to them all the time. And that remote leadership is really impacted. We've, even us at Enterprise Lab, we're training people on how to be remote leaders in this particular way. And it is an attitude and it is a mindset shift and change. And I think it's a situation where I think you bring this great piece around and analyze yourself, assess yourself, understand, and be comfortable. I think you've got to be comfortable in your own skin to say, hey, do you know what? I'm an engineer. I'm not a salesperson. I need to focus on that technicality, and someone else needs to do this kind of thing. I mean, it's like putting this whole summit together. I was the brainchild of this kind of thing, but I'm not the person that's done all the tech stuff and this stuff, and the facilitators. All these different things are brought by other people who are absolutely passionate about what they do in those areas, which is why it all clicks and works. So, and I've got a couple of questions coming in, which I want to get to you as well. So kind of just moving on that base, do you feel that it's really important for any business owner out there that's thinking, how do I build my team and how do I learn to let go, that first they've got to look from within? They've got to answer those uncomfortable questions that they're avoiding right now, correct? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree, because a lot of people don't even start there. They just go and take that leap. If you're an engineer, you start, building, somewhat networking, somewhat doing a little bit of that, and doing everything. And I'm going to go back to what you said. It is about trust, first and foremost.
Mm,
And then two, that what I just talked about is assessing yourself and taking an inventory of the things that you know you're not good at,
yeah.
and getting people in place. So there's actually another thing that goes on before getting people in place, is having a system. So another mistake a lot of new business owners make is they don't have systems in place, they don't have how-tos, and then they hire people and expect them to know how to do everything that how you want it done precisely. And then the business owners get mad that, oh my gosh, I hired this deadbeat. They said that they're this, but they can't do the job that I have hired them to do.
Yeah.
Right. So, again, taking a look at as far as business is concerned. So, making sure when you take that inventory, especially if it's just you first, jotting down those processes. How do you do invoicing?
Mm,
Do how do you service a customer? What do you do when a ticket comes in? And I'm just sharing just some generalities, right? And it doesn't have to
yeah.
be complicated. It could just be as simple as opening up a Word document, says step one, go
Yeah.
to login, two, three. Having those systems in place, ready to go as you're starting, and also building your system alongside you, and building those important things like policies, procedures. And then so when you're ready, you're like, okay, I've got enough resources, or I'm ready to hire, let's just say, a customer service representative. Then you have the systems, you know exactly what you have. You hire that customer service person, whether it's on site or remote, just as long as you have those systems in place. a big component to that as well of being a successful entrepreneur, scaling a business, is training them on that process. So
Yeah.
first and foremost, you do have to invest that time to train your folks, because it's like, again, a lot of people hire people, they expect them to know everything 100%, get upset when they don't get the results, fire them, and they go through the cycle over and over again, and it's wasted resources.
But don't you think actually it's a little bit? I put this down to the whole assume model, you know, the ass out of you and me kind of situation, because I just assume that you said that you're great at this, and then all of a sudden you come in my company and you can't do the things that you said that you could do. But the fact of it is you know that no one's created the platform, you haven't created the environment, you haven't created the culture, you haven't created the system, you haven't got the operations manual, and even then, when someone could come in and they excel in that area, they can optimize that operation and that system for you to say, actually, you're doing it this way and you're wasting this much potential. We could do it faster, quicker, better in this particular way. So I think there is entrepreneurs and business owners at an early stage assume a lot. They assume that this is how things will happen. A little bit like
They
you here.
do. Yeah, they do. And there's actually two parts to that. So there's one that you can be proactive and have some type of basic framework, hiring someone who has the experience and saying, this is what we have. Based on your experience, can you make sure that we continue to improve this process?
Yeah,
And if they do have the experience, and you're bringing on someone with that set of skills from a different organization, it's just a
yeah,
matter of setting expectations so they know how to help you with those things. Because if you don't, several things are going to happen. Someone else is going to run your operations and you're completely blindsided, right? You don't know how operations is being ran. If you're not a leader and you're bringing somebody on, another person can create that culture and atmosphere and
yeah,
operations for you, and then that's where there's going to be butting of heads.
yeah.
Right. So there are so many different scenarios that can happen, but I really think that as an entrepreneur, you gotta, in anything that I do, it's always about thinking about the end in mind. What is it that I'm trying to accomplish, and then reverse engineer that.
Yeah. I love that. I love that word you brought in, reverse engineer. That's one of my favorites. That's one of my
Yeah,
favorites. I'm conscious of time, but I also want to get these questions in as well. So
sure.
we're gonna turn it up a little bit just now. So obviously, one of the things that we put in into the synopsis of here is talking about ethnic minorities make a huge contribution towards economies around the world. You know, 44% or 223 companies within the US, you know, in the top Fortune 500 are founded by immigrants. Okay, another 122 were made from the children of immigrants. Now, there are two things in this question which has come on. It's how has being a woman and a business owner and an entrepreneur been a challenge throughout your career, and how has it been for you also being a migrant as much as that? So I'm gonna double up the question because we're running out of time, and I'm
Sure.
fascinated.
Tell me how much time I have left.
You've got 30 seconds left. I'm really joking. No,
30 seconds. Okay.
no. So we've got about 7-8 minutes left here. So first thing we want to kind of what kind of challenges and things have happened throughout your career, both being a female entrepreneur and being a migrant.
Okay. So I'm going to address the challenge first, because I mean, it's obvious with the statistics that you just shared with me. Um, is this I'm fortunate to be in the United States, very fortunate. I live in California. So we're a little bit more progressive as far as entrepreneurship and women.
Hmm.
Now, organizations, I think across the board, has changed their mindset. So from a macro standpoint, it hasn't been an issue for me pursuing opportunities. Where I think there's a lot of unsaid things still that I've had challenges with are the micro biases,
Hmm.
right? I could get into a company that has a diversity initiative, and then I have a person that I'm dealing with that may not be comfortable working with a woman. And I've had these types of situation where it's not so evident. externally.
Yeah.
And so these are the micro biases that I've had to overcome. And a lot of the challenge for being a woman as well is being taken seriously if I'm competing with two other male counterparts.
Mm.
Here I am. And then what? But here's how I've been able to overcome this. It's not about your gender. It's not about your skin color. It's about going in with that confidence. This is what I stand for. This is the value I'm
Mm.
giving your organization. This is how we're going to solve your problem. And for me, leading with that, really being aware of my customer, the opportunity, and addressing those key things that are important to them. If you lead with that, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter if I'm this petite, 5'1" Filipina hybrid, first generation immigrant,
Fireball. That's what you
five
are.
but and you know what? Depends on the size, the heel size. I could be, 5'4" or 5'6". Anyway, just injecting some humor there. But seriously, I want to say, and I know we're running out of time.
That's okay.
Never lead with thinking you are a minority. That is a mindset that's been ingrained in us. We've been conditioned to say we are the minority. What
Brilliant.
does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, really, what does that mean? You're a woman. Okay, great. What does that mean? Lead with value. Lead with your intelligence. Lead with your heart to be able to connect.
Yeah.
Lead with, you know, being able to serve at the highest level. And that's how I have found my success, to be honest with you. It's never really been a challenge for me. At
And
19, getting hired at one of the youngest bankers, leaving my corporate job, starting an IT company and male-dominated industry. I've gone to many IT conferences where I am only one of less than a dozen women there, and even that, less than five of us were women CEOs. I always say like, hey, this is my advantage. I walk into a room, be like, hello, hi, you know and it's to be honest, and I just want to leave that impression with people. It's all about your mindset. It's about how you view things.
yes.
You're going to need to undo a lot of the conditioning that we have been so programmed, like, forever. And I just don't lead that way. I don't move in my world that way.
No, I get that. And do you know what? I really, really love the way that you've kind of depicted this and broken it down and given those kind of key messages. These are the kind of things that the female audiences in our summit need to hear. Now, very quickly, during our UK lockdown, the first lockdown, there was a study that was done, and Barclays, their digital eagles, did a survey and they actually announced that 72% of the new startups or people that wanted to start up businesses were females. They want, so we've got a shift coming where more and more women want to take control, want to take ownership. They want to be able to, I wouldn't say dictate, but they bring a completely different thought process and mindset to the entrepreneurial world. Now, just tying in one of the other questions that we have here is about what kind of advice do you have for female entrepreneurs in terms of how they self-develop themselves? Are there any things that you've gone on and practiced and learned or been coached into as you were kind of progressing through your journey to leadership?
Yes. And as mentioned to you, self-awareness, self-assessment, get
Mm-hmm.
to know yourself first,
Mm-hmm.
get your mindset right. Get your mindset right. And how you're going to do that, it could be a lot of continuing education personally, whether it's through books, whether it's enrolling yourself in workshops, going back to school, or getting a coach. I cannot emphasize continuing education as a key component to your success.
Mm.
Thirdly, it is knowing that you have support. You don't have to feel alone. Feel free to reach out to people and surround yourself with like-minded individuals to help you.
I heard that.
And getting around a support group that will, take you and help you get to that next level.
Yeah.
And be be open. That's the other thing, sort of in general. Just be open to evolving and seeing where don't the control thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
The
absolutely.
control thing.
Yeah.
It is, do you know what you want? Do you know what you want? Remember, think about the end in mind and reverse engineer it, but also be open and flexible in hearing other people's opinions, because
Mm.
and this is a general tip that I have for entrepreneurs, the control thing and the need to have it their way sometimes limits the ceiling for them, if
Right.
there's even such a thing. I don't think there are ceilings. Again, I think that's man-made. What
Mm.
ceiling? What glass ceiling? I can see beyond the skies. Again,
Yeah.
it's all about the mindset. It is about the mindset,
Yeah.
but being open and not being so fixed about your way, because that one little idea that may come from you, Kitan, in a conversation can make that huge difference in your career.
Yeah. And that's where I kind of think we bring this to its conclusion. This is where I want you to kind of put one last piece of advice that you would give to any entrepreneur, whether they're male or female, or irrespective of gender. If there's anything that you could have gone back 10 years ago and someone could have told you that at that point, what would that message be?
Hmm. Oh my goodness. I don't think it's anyone. And here's the thing, sometimes you do have to go through your own trials and journey to really learn, because there are people who are stubborn like myself. So I guess with that in mind, it is that being open and not be so stubborn. You don't have to learn it the hard way. You don't have to learn it the hard way. You can reach out to other people who have been there, done that, to make it much easier for you.
So the secret to there is don't work hard, work smart, right?
Work smarter.
That's smarter. I love that.
Work smarter.
Oh, you know what?
And it's about having a leadership mindset, period.
Period.
Are you an employee or are you a leader?
This is exactly it. This is exactly where people need to continue asking themselves and be honest with yourself at some point. Stop avoiding the questions. Get out of that kind of comfort zone, etc. And yeah, it's been a privilege to have you on. I'm so pleased that we've had that opportunity to connect. I've been following a lot of stuff that you've been doing on social, and I knew I wanted to get you in to just kind of talk about these kind of things. And I really sincerely hope for any of you that out there watching this today, live or recorded, that you can even just take 1%, just 1% of what Anya's talking about. And by all means, I mean, what's in the future for you now? What are you doing now? You've exited your IT business. Are you creating a new venture? Are you moving on to new pastures? You've got new challenges. Could you just give us a quick 30-second update on that?
Yes. So I'm starting a new business called Alpha's Athletics, which is a fitness athleisure line. It's business to me. It doesn't matter whether it's IT. I love business and entrepreneurship. I invented a product. I have a patent on it. I'm in production currently and want to launch spring or summer 2021, and I'm in pre-startup stages. And then my other venture, and I've been doing this privately the last year, but have gone public with it, is consulting with women CEOs and executives. I have a practice that is based on my business coaching, my personal, everything collectively, my entire life, that I can bring of value to someone for their development. Plus, my little edge there is doing it including numerology. Really unique, but this is the same stuff that I have used in experiencing amazing success in my life and in my business. So you can find out more about me, just Anya Nova on Facebook, Anya Nova on Instagram, and all of my links are there. I'm on LinkedIn as well, so feel free to connect with me.
Superb. And you know what, guys, we'll be getting more and more stuff away from Anya, and we'll get that reconnected into your swag
Right.
bags and everything there. So don't
Awesome.
do that. But Anya, we've run out of time today. I
Yes.
really, really appreciate you for coming on and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and answering all the questions, even some of those kind of put on the spot. We wish you the very best of luck with with all the businesses and stuff that you're doing, and please remain part of our Enterprise Lab family as we go into the future.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Ketan. Bye, everyone.
Take care, guys.